What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you are into that, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Do you agree with where I ranked your team in my ultimate 136 preseason college football rankings? Yes, I ranked every single team in college football heading into this preseason, and I have a framework for which I used it. As we go through these teams, I will try to answer your questions and get to the bottom of where your team is and why I chose to put them there. One of the things that I would like to start with is this isn't your average or normal college football ranking. Certainly going to differ from the Associated Press's preseason ranking, which has got Penn State at number 2. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I set the rankings to be fluid, right? This is a jumping off point based on what we know, right? Who do I think is good? Why do I think they're good? And what are the chances they will finish above or below my expectations, right? So this means that I do a tremendous amount of research that really begins in February and goes all the way through to right now. We're still tweaking all the way up to the lead up to this thing because it's an enormous document. If you go check it out, you'll be able to find your team pretty quick, but it is over 20,000 words, which is about 1/5 of the last book that I wrote, right? Requiem for the Massacre. It's actually back there. You should read it if you are into history and the Tulsa Race Massacre from a guy who went and did the work. But in doing that sort of book, I learned to do a whole lot of research in classic journalistic terms, means that going to find out who's on what team and then take into account things that I think matter as we look at college football and how we rank these teams, such as strength of schedule, coaching continuity. There's a graph here like strength of schedule, coach continuity, returning starters, 2025 recruiting class, transfer portal results, athletic administration, star players, and expected household names. So, for instance, right, if you are a Michigan Wolverine, you know that Bryce Underwood is an expected household name. So there are a lot of other variables that we can get to, but those are the main ones that I wanted to focus on when I ranked 136 teams. Having an issue, please, like if you have an issue with the rankings, let me know in the comments below. Hit me up on X, Instagram, the TikToks, wherever it is that you choose to give me your thoughts. And people have been loud about them. Certainly, my alma mater, University of Tulsa, is basically not happy, but that's okay. That's okay because this also is what the job is why National College Football Analyst is the title. I don't really bring who I root for into this. I bring in, are you any good? What's your strength of schedule? What's your coach continuity? I don't much care that Trey Lamb has a better golf game than any other head coach playing. I care about what the program has looked like in the interim years and what did you bring in that leads me to believe you may or may not be able to contend in 2025. So let's start with the team that I think should be at number 1 for everybody, right? And that is Texas. Texas supposed to win the national championship this year. There's no getting around that. It's the first time in 2 decades they're supposed to do it. But I think one of the things that gets lost in all of this about Texas is Quinn Ewers really set them up to go be great in 2025. And now he fell to the 7th round Miami Dolphins, but I think if Tua Tagovailoa trips, falls, gets another concussion, you might see Quinn Ewers step in there and Wally Pipp our guy Tua Tagovailoa. But in doing so, set the table for a guy like Arch Manning to come along. Arch Manning is a much more talented quarterback. He's got better wheels. He's got a big arm. I know that we don't have a whole lot to film to go off of, but I'll start with this. He threw for 939 yards last year, including a 300-yard passing performance against Mississippi State, to which you're going, Mississippi State ain't no good. Yeah, but they play in the SEC. And if you are going to judge him, right, based on who he has played and how he played against them. Ewers didn't have the rushing yards that Arch Manning had, right? Arch had 108 rushing yards over the course of those games that he played in. And I think he's the most talented quarterback that Texas has had since Vince Young. And I'm including Colt McCoy in that commentary. So we'll draw our own conclusions about who the number one team is in the country when Ohio State and Texas play on August 29th. But I also enjoy the running back room. One of the things that Steve Sarkisian has always prided himself on is having a 1,000-yard back. And came close to not having one last year, but he ended up with one. And Quintravion Wideman, who rushed for 1,046 yards and is the SEC's top returning tailback in yardage. Now they get CJ Baxter back and Christian Clark. They'll be deep at that position. Ryan Wingo figures to play a bigger role. So does DeAndre Moore, who wants to be the best Texas wide receiver ever, wants to break all of Jordan Shipley's records, and Jordan Shipley's a terror. For those of y'all that do not remember him, I need you to go watch the tape. That white boy had it going on. He was absolutely destroying anybody and everybody. Between Jordan Shipley and Ryan Broyles, I don't think you could think of a wide receiver that Texas fans hated more than Ryan Broyles. And I don't think you could think of a wide receiver that OU fans hated more than Jordan Shipley. Feel like that dude was always open doing something. Now, they got to replace Kelvin Banks on that offensive line, but I think they're going to be okay with Trevor Gooseby. I think Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons are going to be monsters. Michael Taft is All-American. He's coming back. And under the radar here, they got better in the kicking game, right? They got went and got Texas State's kicker, who's making 60-yarders, and got rid of Bert Auburn, who probably lost in some football games. Maybe. See. Maybe you look it up. Also, Bert Auburn has scored more points than anybody else in Texas, so it's kind of funny. Texas, I think, could only go down from here, but they're going to get to go to Ohio State and prove that they are number one team in the country, as I have Ohio State at number 2. The Buckeyes don't rebuild, they reload. It's a cliche, but it works for them because it's true. They lost 14 NFL draft picks, but that doesn't mean that they're not talented. What it does mean is, oh yeah, they've got guys behind them. Now, on top of that, they've got an 0-4 record against Michigan the last 4 years. We'll talk about that. But they were able to overcome that loss last year and run the table. And big reason why is Jeremiah Smith. People know this. He also has said out loud he doesn't plan to lose to Michigan ever again. My favorite quote from The Athletic: "I just hate them. Just something about them. For the next 2 years, I promise you, I will not lose to them. I can't lose to them in the next 2 years." It's a heady statement, and I don't know that it's taken into account. There's an entire class of Ohio State players and, more importantly, students and alumni who never beat Michigan. That lives forever. Ask CJ Stroud how that lives. So I hope he is right for his sake. Bottom line, though, is Smith and Caleb Downs are the 2 best players in the country on anybody's roster, period. Wide receiver, safety. That's just true. Then you are changing out your coordinators, right? Chip Kelly goes to Las Vegas Raiders. Jim Knowles goes to Penn State. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Brian Hartline gets elevated to full-time play caller with the play sheet and wide receiver coach. And then you bring in Matt Patricia, who has won Super Bowls, 3 of them, to run your defense. I don't think the schemes are going to change, just the guys calling the plays. We'll see what that looks like. Julian Sayin has waited for this opportunity to go win the job, go beat Lincoln Kienholz out and secure it. Every unit on the team, outside of perhaps the offensive line, is probably going to be one of the best in the country, if not top 10. They'll fill a hole at left tackle, left guard, and center, but they did that last year, and it worked just fine. They slid out a left guard to left tackle and won a national championship. Team has a chance to do what Georgia has been the only program to do in the college football playoff era, and that is go back-to-back. Talent is there, right? Number 3, I got Oregon. Combine their sweetheart schedule with the 10 or more games that they have won across, the last 5 seasons. It's really difficult to think of Oregon not being a top 5 team to me. 25-3 over the last 2 years. The most challenging part of their schedule, though, is also just they're at Penn State. So Penn State gets an opportunity to earn their AP ranking and perhaps make me look bad, which I invite you to do just that. But the following week, they get Indiana at Autzen. And then the toughest opponent they play is like Rutgers. And I say that because they got to cross, 4 time zones to get to Piscataway. So that might be doing something to them, but it's still Rutgers. I get Dante Moore, and he hasn't played, but he's viewed as, the guy. And he's waited this opportunity and been the understudy for Dylan Gabriel for a year. Yeah, it's going to be a third different quarterback in as many years for Will Stein, but that ain't really held him back. Now, has it? They got DeCorian Moore, who is the best wide receiver in this class, has an opportunity to be as good as Ryan Williams, perhaps even as good as Jeremiah Smith, given that Evan Stewart is out. And I think the best player on their team, Dylan Thunderman, who I think is the second best safety in all of college football, and he could truly be great for them, along with Mateo Uiagalelei, Bear Alexander, who has been my favorite mercenary in college football. Dan Lanning, though, just book it, right? He's going to get 10 wins. They might end up the number one team again, but kind of like Penn State, can they win the whole damn thing? We'll find out. Notre Dame at number 4. CJ Carr, man, I think it's going to be him, but it's going to be about Jeremiah Love. It's going to be about the guy that can run the ball and who has shown that he is young and he is hungry. Same thing with Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison. The Fighting Irish are set to return 11 starters from their national title runner-up team. And I think, unlike Texas Christian, they could get back to the game, right? They can get back to this thing that makes that Northern Illinois loss at home look even more squirrely. But last year, my favorite stat for them is they outscored their opponents 149-45 in the third quarter, in the we're moving corner, in the we're closing it down quarter. They were really great. They converted also nearly 73% of their fourth down conversions. Really love that for them too. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I'd be remiss if I did not say we get a really interesting schedule from Notre Dame. Like this game against Arkansas, I'm going, oh, really? And then I can't wait to see what they're going to do to open this season against Miami. It's going to be a lot of fun. Georgia at number 5 for me. Georgia enters 2025 knowing who the starter at quarterback is and feeling good about the future with Gunnar Stockton. They have to. Dude throw for 1 million yards in high school, but that's not really what they do at Georgia. You could have a guy that throws for 3,700 yards, 3,800 yards. He's going to spread the ball around. One of the things that they did need to address was the wide receiver core. They brought in an All-American in Zachariah Branch who can do everything you want. I think of him as a James Cook kind of figure for them. He can run the ball. He can take end arounds. He's going to be great in the slot. He's going to be able to take top off the defense. He's that fast. And he's going to make you elite in punt return and kick return. My favorite stat, and I beat it up, and I will continue to beat it up, is Georgia hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2019. And Georgia has had only one 1,000-yard receiver in a single season ever. They just don't need to have it. They just got to be great on defense. Like AJ Green, no 1,000-yard season. Brock Bowers, no 1,000-yard season. George Pickens, no 1,000-yard season. Terrence Edwards, yeah, he had 1,000 yards. 1,004, 2002. Pretty cool. Pretty awesome for him. He gets to keep that and probably doesn't change for some time. Still, they went back-to-back 21, 22. Dogs got a medieval-style gauntlet to run through in the SEC, though. They are at Texas last year, and they were at then they had Ole Miss, who beat them, and Alabama, who beat them. This year, you got to keep in mind, though, Georgia, oh my God, 30 Georgia players. Oh, my God, this is just a wild stat. Check this out, man. 30 Georgia players, including 11 in the first round, an entire side of the football, have been drafted since 2021. Kirby Smart is 105-19 in 9 seasons at Georgia. And I want you to keep that in perspective every time we talk about Kalen DeBoer and his win-loss record. I think that we really just do not give that man enough credit for what he has done. Clemson at number 6 for me. Dabo Swinney not only returned to starting quarterback in Cade Klubnik, who is a Heisman favorite, but his offensive coordinator and Garrett Riley, and he added former Penn State defense coordinator Tom Allen to the program. Perhaps no team has proven to be more resilient in the college football playoff era than Clemson. Somehow, some way, they found themselves in that thing last year, and they were really good. They were really great. I think this year they get to have a real opportunity to go win the national championship again. They could go 16-0, according to Dabo Swinney. Clemson gets the rare opportunity to throw down an early marker against the top 10 team in LSU, who's headed to the real Death Valley. Yes, I wrote about that too. In week 1, they also got TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco Jr. They lost guys like Troy Stellato, but I don't think they're that upset about it. Peter Moore is a dog. He's going to be great. TJ Parker had 11 sacks last year. He's going to be great. I expect they'll be right there at the end once again. And if they make the ACC championship, you got to believe they got an opportunity to win it. Then at number 7, I got Penn State. Penn State, who, as I have said, has a total of 14 starters that return this season. They got the best defensive coordinator in the country and Jim Knowles to join up with them. And they got Andy Kotelnicki back for another year. But they are 0-7 against Ohio State and Michigan over the past 4 years, 1-15 against AP top 5 opponents. I get that people are saying that they're due, but so is the rent. And one way or another, it's getting paid in January. And unlike Penn State, my checks don't bounce. Number 8, we got LSU. Brian Kelly got Garrett Nussmeier back. That's the SEC's returning leader in passing with over 4,000 yards. Got to keep him healthy. Got to keep him upright. Got him some dudes to play around him. Barian Brown, fast. Nick Anderson, fast. Defensively, Patrick Payton figures to make them better on the edge. Harold Perkins makes them better on the edge. Whit Weeks makes them great at linebacker. They got a 6'5" corner in DJ Pickett, guys. That dude is going to be a monster. I can't wait to see him play. Apart from Clemson, LSU should be favored in every game it plays, though. That's just what it is. If they're going to win it all, this is the time to do it. And it feels like BK knows that. He gave $1 million of his own money to the Name, Image, and Likeness Fund this year for this team. Number 9, we got Alabama, who, no program has made more appearances in the college football playoff, 8, or has more wins, 9, or national titles, 3. But those all belong to Nick Saban. None of those belong to Kalen DeBoer. In the 12-team format, you thought Alabama would be a shoo-in to the college football playoff, but they got left out and were left to haggle about Southern Methodist getting a spot they thought they should deserve, and then they get beat by Michigan in their bowl game. Jalen Milroe's gone. Justice Haynes is gone, but Ryan Williams is still there. Ty Simpson figures to be able to do the job. Deontay Lawson leads a defense that should be pretty damn good. He's had at least 67 sacks, 67 tackles, not sacks. My God, if you had 67 sacks, that'd be pretty good. 2 sacks each of the past 2 years. Alabama has non-conference games against Florida State. Tommy Castellano's been talking a lot of noise. And Wisconsin in the first 3 weeks. Then they get a balanced breakfast from week 5 to week 13, man. At Georgia versus Vanderbilt, at Missouri versus Tennessee, at South Carolina versus LSU, and versus Oklahoma. By then, we'll know who's playing for what in the Iron Bowl. And it could be Auburn and Alabama are playing for a college football playoff spot. Could be, but neither one of them are. And then at number 10, I got Oklahoma. John Mateer, Jaden Knott should form one of the 2 best QB-RB duos in the SEC behind Manning and Baxter at Texas. I think CJ Baxter is going to have a year this year. I think adding Mateer, adding Ben Arbuckle, you hope to have this plug-and-play offense, and you hope to get similar results. Mateer, who had 3,100 yards passing, 800 yards on the ground. When Jaden Knott was healthy, he was great. 1,300 yards on the ground. Add Javonte Barnes to that, and you could be looking at the first 1,000-yard rusher at Oklahoma since 2022. That'd be Eric Gray, who went for 1,300. At edge, they're going to be good, man. R. Mason Thomas is one of those dudes. Kip Lewis is great. Safety at Peyton Bowen, one of the better defensive backs in the country. They got Michigan week 2. They got South Carolina in Charleston, or Columbia. Tennessee, and Alabama. Tennessee and Alabama, those are winnable games. South Carolina is a winnable game. Frankly, Oklahoma can win most, if not all, these games. Texas might be tough, but it's also OU Texas, and you can always kind of figure on it being OU Texas. Come back, I want to have another conversation about the rest of the top 25 as we work our way through me talking about my 136.